Hello and welcome to Fuller Consciousness. My name is Michelle Fuller. If you want to know more about me, go to my website. I'm jumping in. Um, I want to talk about the energy of righteousness. This came up in the Cleanup Crew, which is the online workshop that I host today. The context was someone in the group was sharing about how they feel afraid to apologize to someone or even just to explain like where they were coming from to try to bridge misunderstandings. Like maybe an apology isn't necessary, but just a way to sort of negotiate a mutual understanding and how they're afraid to engage in those types of dialogues because of all the times in which, when they have done that, the other person has ended up pulling away from them. Or, there's a spectrum to this. Oftentimes it might just be that the other person might pull away. You might feel them pulling away, or the person might be unable to negotiate the misunderstanding and instead just become angry, become sort of indignant. Um, Sometimes it's possible also where if we have a belief in place that when we attempt to build bridges, someone will end up pulling away from us. It's possible that that belief will even project through our mind and we will perceive that that is happening. And it might look like it truly is happening, but there could be other things going on and the different sort of energetic incidences taking place in that space might mirror back the belief that the person is pulling away or running from you, when in fact it's like, who knows? Like, who knows what's going on in their life? Like, it could just be a total coincidence. But because you've experienced times in the past where this was the result, you'll tally it up. You'll put it on the blackboard as another incidence. And when someone is pulling away or rejecting your attempts to consciously communicate a misunderstanding, and it's actually not what's really happening. So that's the first thing that I want to point out, is to really discern. um and this might take a little bit of time, because if you're activated inside of this past experience and fearing that it's going to happen again, and that another relationship that you value is going to fall apart now, or that it's not going to be the same now, or there's going to be less trust, that is going to be challenging to build back, or something like that. Um, it's going to be difficult to discern sometimes, like what's really, really happening in that space. I had a situation today where something happened without going into details with a friend, and I was like, I kind of think that this thing might be going on, which would be the fear belief, but it's also equally possible, knowing what I know about everything else going on in my friend's life, that the first option, option A, is not true at all. And that it's my own fear creating this possibility. And if I'm not able to look at other possibilities, and if I just hook into option A, like that is definitely what's happening, do you see the way in which I would create my entire perspective about this relationship now? At this point, I would make meaning from this one situation that happened today. And then I would probably look back maybe over the last year and look for other indications that something is going on. And before you know it, this is the story that I'm telling myself, and this is fact, and this is my reality now. Okay, so that's one example of what can happen in this space when we reach out to consciously communicate something or apologize for something that we feel we participated in, or just try to explain ourselves. Um, And obviously, there's a ton of narratives out there around, stop explaining yourself. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone, all of that. This is really useful for those who typically fall into fawn trauma responses or who know for yourself that you have had a pattern in the past of constantly over explaining yourself, feeling like you have to explain yourself to people so that they understand you and things like that. What's ironic about that is that, first of all, it comes from a need to be understood, right? It comes from a need to be understood. Because if the need wasn't there, you wouldn't care. And so you wouldn't explain yourself. Yeah. You just wouldn't care. You'd be like, whatever they think is fine. It comes from a need. Now, there is a spectrum to that need. On one end of the spectrum, we have a healthy connection based need, which honors transparency, which honors the understanding that sometimes we need to communicate so that other people don't get the wrong impression. Like, for example, you ask me to go somewhere with you and I can't go. If I just say to you, oh, no, I can't go, and we're really good friends, that might seem strange considering we're really good friends. And it would be understandable if maybe um, you would perceive that as a little bit strange. Okay. And so maybe I would say, I can't go because, and tell you what's going on. Now, if we're all really gorgeously conscious and there's absolutely no codependency going on, you could ask me to go somewhere and I could say, oh no, I'm not able to go. I can't go. And that literally would be that. Okay. And that would be really beautiful, like amazing, right? No unnecessary words spoken. But because we're in the world that we are in, and in many ways we are walking with each other and connecting with each other, and it is okay to honor our connections and to value them. Um, if you've had any experience trying to go it completely alone, you've probably found out that there are emotional, psychological, spiritual, and perhaps even physical survival ramifications of that. Okay. So, ideally, yes, on an exalted level where we are all just supremely conscious, there would be no explanations ever because there's absolutely no codependence and it's just love in a total honoring of sovereignty and individuation, and you're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing. Okay. But let's be realistic here. If we're really good friends and you ask me to do something with you and it's something like important to you and I'm like, oh no, I can't, it would be understandable if that would seem a little strange. Okay. And maybe you're someone it wouldn't seem strange to. Maybe I could say that to you and you'd just be like, oh, she can't. Okay. But typically between women specifically, there's a little more information than that. Oh no, I can't. That day I'm already doing this, because we're talkative. We converse, we share, right? Period. Leave it there. Okay, now that's one nuance on this energetic spectrum. Now, if I respond to you with, no, I can't, because, and I go into this long, 10-minute long diatribe, whatever, with all the ramifications of my life and everything that I've got going on and all my worries and all of my pressures and all of my stressors and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that is potentially a Narci-script. Not that I'm intentionally trying to put anything on you. However, I'm sharing in a way that is seeking an energy from you to calm myself down. And I don't know if you've ever been like on the other end of this. Like, I personally haven't in quite a while, but I have had relationships like that where it's like I'll be on the phone with somebody and I don't know, like they'll actually be offering to do something really kind for me. Like, hey, I'm going to stop over with a bunch of hand-me-downs for the kids. Okay. It's like, oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. And then will this, do you mind when I stop over? No, come anytime, right? Just leave it if I'm not home, whatever, come anytime. Okay, well, and then the person will launch into all the times that they can come, all the times that they can't come, what their husband is doing, all the things they have to do with their children, what their work schedule is like, and this whole long thing. And you're just kind of sitting there like, dude, come anytime and drop off the bag of clothes, right? And so this is an example of a Narci-script where it looks like someone is offering something, but the exchange is you need to listen to me and all of my stress that I'm not able to sit with. And my expectation is that you're going to be a sounding board for that. Okay. Now, the same thing can happen when we are apologizing to someone or explaining ourselves to someone. It's the exact same kind of thing where it's like we're in that energy of a nursery script where it's like we're looking for something. We're looking for redemption or pure understanding, or we're looking for someone to mirror us back to us and like completely understand where we're coming from, et cetera, et cetera. That would be more of a nursery script energy. However, if we are truly just wanting to consciously communicate because we're wanting to negotiate this relationship, salvage this relationship, perhaps increase trust in the relationship. There was a situation recently where I had to apologize to someone for something, and it was received so beautifully and understood. And if anything, the entire situation increased trust between us. But if that person had become um, very self-righteous, gone into righteousness, gone into this defense mode of protection, which I fully would have like not been surprised if they had, based on lots of experiences that I've had humaning in relationships and these types of conversations. If they had done that, um, I would have, put another line through that tally of, oh, this is what happens when we attempt to be self-accountable or we attempt to repair a relationship. I wasn't looking at it from that perspective because this wasn't my fear at the time. At the time, it was something that I wasn't so much fearing anything. It was more like I I had to be in my integrity and to honor the other person, I had to express this apology. And however they took it was not in my control. It was something that I needed to express, just to be in alignment with the divine and with myself. Um, and in this situation, it was a really beautiful outcome. Um, if that person had gone into a protection mode or like, oh my gosh, I can't believe blah, 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 and all of that, then that is something that I would have had to simply just accept, right? Because there's nothing that we can change about the other person's perspectives at that point. If I go into over explaining, if I try to change their mind, and there's a nuance to that too. It depends on the situation. Maybe the person is misunderstanding and you love them. And so you want to reach out a little more and you want to try to explain a little more. Or maybe you just want to say, hey, you know, my intentions were never this, but I understand this is how everything played out and this is how you feel. I'm here if you want to talk about it again, right? Period. Um, the reason that we go into that energy of righteousness is because we're feeling self-protected. The energy of righteousness says that I have to protect myself because people hurt me. And so when people come to us with an apology or they're attempting to build a bridge or mend a bridge or whatever, a lot of times there's an unconscious belief functioning there that doesn't really believe that that is actually happening. Okay. It's questioning that this is really happening. And again, it's unconscious. It's not in the forefront of your mind. It's unconscious. It works through the unconscious, but it feeds up to the conscious and comes out of the mouth in a way that reflects those unconscious fears. And so it's going to look like combativeness, anger, um, being accusatory, um, a lack of grace, right? Because there's like an assumption there that, like, I'm perfect and I've never done anything wrong to anyone, um, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a protective energy that keeps us safe, is what it is. And sometimes, this is another nuance now on the spectrum of energy, sometimes it might be appropriate. If you are in a relationship for decades and decades, or whatever, a really long time, and there are patterns of something, and someone keeps apologizing to you for the same thing again and again and again, and it keeps happening and behaviors don't change, you might get to a point where you start to feel righteous in holding up a firm boundary and not allowing the pattern to play out again for you because it's non-beneficial to you to allow it to do so. And of course, the way that we express that righteousness shows us everything. Is an inner child energy leading? Is a disempowered adult energy leading? Or is an empowered energy leading? Leading is an empowered energy leading. Okay. So, just some things to think about. I can talk about these concepts a lot more if you would like. I personally love to talk about this stuff because I feel that the more that we shine light on collective responses inside of our communications, inside of our relationships, the better we can all see ourselves and just have awareness and become more transparent. Um, more vulnerable with each other while at the same time using discernment, knowing when there are situations where perhaps it's not the best route to be super vulnerable. If we are in a situation where someone is not able to be vulnerable themselves with us, um, because of where they're at. So, we need to discern like when is a good time to model that vulnerability, though, right? Even if someone isn't able to be vulnerable back, when is a good time to model vulnerability? And sometimes we'll model it, and in the time, it will seem like the person did not pick it up, but you might hear back in some period of time where the person is like, whoa, I was really thinking about this, and now I see it differently, or blah, 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 too, right? All that we can do is do the best that we can inside of every single situation. That's all that we can do. And if we look back and we feel like we didn't do the best we could, then in that particular situation, self-compassion, all that matters is now and having increased awareness inside of every single relationship navigation as we go. Okay. Hope this was helpful. Lots of love, and I will see you later.